One of the subjects that has come up to me by a lot of people, sometimes in a class, sometimes after a sermon, sometimes just a question that somebody has talked to me about, called me on the telephone to talk about. And it's the issue of forgiveness. Now, there are some occasions when the question about forgiveness was brought up by a person who maybe they had committed a sin, or maybe they're coming out of an entire lifestyle of sin. And they were eager to know for sure that God had forgiven them, and they were struggling with accepting that forgiveness and feeling as if they were right with God once again. The other group of people who has often brought that question to my attention, maybe more so than people concerned about their own sins, are that group of people that someone has sinned against them. And sometimes in terrible ways. And it has created tremendous pain for that person. They've been hurt in many, many ways. And the reason that people bring up the question of forgiveness is because, frankly, they're struggling to forgive the person who has hurt them so badly. Forgiveness is something that we Christians are very familiar with. Or maybe I should say, we should be very familiar with. Forgiveness, after all, is a central concern of the gospel of Jesus. But it's elusive. It's elusive to the person who has sinned. It's elusive to the person who's trying their best to find a way to forgive people who have hurt them. We know that God forgives, and we know that God teaches that we ought to forgive, and yet it's a problem. And we need to understand that forgiveness is not some simple little thing. It's not something that you can just, utter the word and everything is hunky-dory again. It doesn't work that way. Forgiveness is a struggle. Forgiveness often takes a lot of time to work through and to reach a point where a person feels like they have actually forgiven someone. Now, there are a lot of things that can get in the way of forgiveness. For the sinner, I think guilt can get in the way of appreciating God's forgiveness and really feeling as if they have been forgiven. That guilt can also produce other feelings like insecurity and just a sense of undeservedness. I don't deserve to be forgiven. Because a person understands the pain that they have caused others. They understand how badly they have offended God. They know in their own mind and heart the reality of these things. And so there is a sense that people can feel like they just don't deserve to be forgiven. You can add to that the loss of honor and respect that sometimes people go through because other people have, in response to that person's sin, other people reject them. Now they don't want to have anything to do with them. Their admiration or appreciation for the sinner has, disappeared. And so honor and respect that a person might have gained from others because of sin, now that is no longer present. And that can be pretty devastating to an individual. For others, though, the ones who've been sinned against, I think there's some other things that get in the way of forgiving people. I think you're going to have to deal with the issue of righteous anger. Righteous anger. I've been hurt and I got a right to be mad, and because I have a right to be mad, therefore I'm going to withhold my forgiveness, and I'm right in doing so. Well, I understand that because that righteous anger sometimes validates our refusal to forgive somebody, and we're just going to have to wrestle with that. As strong as that feeling is, and as right as we sometimes believe ourselves to be, we're going to have to we're going to have to balance that with some things that we read in Scripture that God teaches us, and you may discover that your righteous anger is not the trump card you believe that it is. Sometimes there is the mental and emotional and even the spiritual pain that we endure because of the sin of another person, because they have hurt us in some awful way. And because we're hurting so badly, our minds are, we don't think rationally. We can't behave rationally. It's pretty easy to become a prisoner to our own emotional response to things, and it can get in the way of forgiving someone. And then, of course, there's living with the consequences, the long-term consequences, the very real consequences that are sometimes present when other people have sinned against us. All of that, and probably a lot more, all of that makes it hard. It doesn't matter whether you are the person who has committed the sin or whether you are the person who needs to forgive the sinner. Forgiveness, just the broad concept of forgiveness. Forgiveness probably is one of the most difficult things that human beings must wrestle with.